So let's begin as usual by taking a couple of nice deep breaths. Relax into your own heart. Notice that you are aware. I am aware that I am aware. Awareness is here now, in this moment, eternally. Allow yourself to sink deep into your own heart. Open to yourself, to this moment, to the world. Everything that is flows through you. Open your heart. Let yourself rest. Stay alert, aware. Rest in the heart of being. And let's sit together for a few minutes. Welcome, everyone. So I want to remind you that during the silence, the darshan period, all of your computers and tablets are muted. So if you'd like to speak with me, make a comment, ask a question, you'll need to be sure that you turn on your audio and video along the bar across the bottom of your screen. If the bar isn't there, just tap the bottom of the screen and the bar will show up. So happy to see you all. I hope you're all well. As this lockdown continues, for some of us anyway. So now is your opportunity to speak with me if you'd like. If you do want to speak with me, though, I would ask you that you turn on your camera because otherwise I can't see you.
Rishi, this is
Hello,
Brandy.
Brandy.
Can you hear me? I don't know exactly what to ask, but I feel like at least the last week or two, I've been struggling a little bit between really trying so hard to practice, trying so hard, and then not wanting to. I'm having a hard time finding a balance. Like when I'm sitting, I'm really trying too hard, um, which I realize has become a habit. Uh, but it seems like relaxing into it is so painful. It just feels painful. Um, so I'm not really sure how to ask what I'm trying to ask, but
Well,
explain my
let
situation a
me
little
ask. Mm, yeah,
bit. Yeah.
you're yeah. Our connection is picking up, but let me ask you, what is it that you're trying to achieve by making such a great effort?
Peace. Peace.
Yeah, but do you see that underlying assumption when you say, I'm making such a great effort to achieve peace? The underlying assumption is, I don't have peace, or I'm already peace, or in me there is no peace. So, this, of course, isn't true. Your nature is peace. So, the underlying assumption makes it appear that you have to make the great effort to achieve peace. And understand that that's really a function of being aware of the condition of mind rather than the recognition I am peace. So what I'm saying is that the attention is still resting primarily in the content of the mind. And so by doing that, there can never be peace because content of the mind is ever changing, right? It's always moving. And the peace itself, which is our nature or beingness, that is never moving. So you can see just from that description that if we keep our attention on the content of the mind, and by content of the mind, I don't just mean thoughts, I also mean what might refer to as the feelings. The feelings themselves that we're having, which are difficult, um, we're wanting to avoid or to get away from. These are also thoughts. They're not thoughts in the sense that we are consciously aware of them, because obviously we can feel as though we're not really having any thoughts in the mind, and we can still be weeping. So feeling is a form of thought that goes much, much deeper than the conscious thoughts that are in the mind. This is why it's possible, while having a great deal of feeling, to experience the mind as being numb or empty in a numb way. This is because we're suppressing, ignoring, or pushing aside what we feel are the difficult, harmful, hurtful thoughts that we might potentially have, but we can't really push those away. And when we try to push them away, we can succeed in suppressing them. But then what will happen is the feeling will come. It'll come throughout the whole body. It will come as an emotional upheaval. But its basis is still in thought, whether that thought is conscious thought or it's unconscious thought. It is still thought, and it will still cause a reaction in the mind. And of course, when that happens, the tendency of the conditioned mind is to look directly either into the thoughts themselves, or if the thoughts don't appear to be present, into emotional upheaval that's happening. And to somehow think, I have no peace. I am not peace. I am this upheaval. I am the difficulty. I am this hurt, this pain that I'm experiencing. So what it becomes important for us to do is not to increase our effort, because in that circumstance, the effort is going to suppression. So what we need to do is open the heart with a willingness to stand in whatever is here. Whatever is here in this moment as mind, thought, emotion, painful feeling, sorrow, whatever is here, that will ultimately pass, whether it passes temporarily or it passes permanently, because, excuse me, because it is the nature of mind to keep moving, to always keep moving, to always change. Even that difficult moment, that difficult emotion, those difficult thoughts will pass, but only if we're willing to stand in them. Otherwise, it feels like we're making a great deal of effort, but the effort is not really to be present, to be aware, and to be cognizant of the changing emotions and the changing patterns. It's rather the effort is being made to suppress what's going on. And we can be telling ourselves, I'm making such a great effort to move toward peace. But that's just the mind's way of saying, I don't want to think about those other things. So I'm going to delude you in thinking that what you're doing is making a great effort to be peace. That is just the mind's story about that. In fact, what needs to be remembered or recollected is that you are peace. Now you can come from that position. You can say to the mind, to the experience, the thoughts, to the emotion, Show me that peace. So do you see the assumption is different in that case? The assumption is, I am peace. And I'm momentarily blocked from it. But by remembering, bringing to mind the mere thought and peace brings us closer to that state of mind, that state of being. And also then by saying, bring me to this, we're able to stay present as presence itself with the difficulty through the faith and the knowledge from our own experience that the nature of mind is to change. And so this will continue on. And if I have to be here in this moment with this sadness, with this difficulty, I am willing. Not I'm willing because I want to suffer, but I am willing because I am awakened being. I may be in a puddle on the floor, experiencing difficulty, experiencing emotion and upset, but that does not change the fact that my nature is being, consciousness and bliss. So in a way, we speak to ourselves in this way. We're not speaking, of course, to ourselves. We're speaking to the mind, to the attention, which is habitually and by conditioning is going to the content of the mind, to the content of emotion, to the content of the feelings. And we are simply giving a reminder. When you say, I am making such a great effort, but I can't feel any peace, this is like saying, I'm hitting this puppy, and for some reason it won't sit still. If you want a puppy to sit still, you give it a little sweetie, you give it a treat, and then it will sit there looking at you, waiting for the next treat. But if you hit it, it just becomes an angry and mean dog when it grows up. The mind operates in the same way. So when we are experiencing difficulty, upset, trauma, these kinds of things, when these kinds of emotions and feelings, thoughts are present in the mind, we must be very kind. The way we do this is we remind ourselves that my nature is being, consciousness and bliss, no matter what difficulty I'm facing at this moment. And you allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, knowing you are not that, but this feeling is present. And you will survive it. Understand there's a deep fear in the mind. The mind is saying, I want to get rid of this, I want to stop it, I want to become peace. But what's really happening is there's a deep fear in the mind that I will not ever be able to get out of this fear, this sadness, this difficult moment. That's the fear of the mind. And this is what keeps pulling attention back to the mind and back to the emotion and back to the feeling. So just stay with it. Eventually it will pass. Everything has a season. Whether that season is short or long is not really in your, that's not a decision you can make, because so much of what goes on in our life before awakening is happening as a result of conditioning, either in this lifetime or another lifetime. And that parabdha karma is going to be played out in this lifetime. And as the sages have pointed out, parabdha karma, though it can be, one can remain stable, aware in the rising and falling of parabdha karma. The rising and falling of parabdha karma is part of the agreement one has made in taking a body and a mind in this incarnation. So even for great ages, parabdha karma goes on. Even after awakening, even after complete and total recognition, I am the self. The evolution or the so on of parabdha karma seems to go on. In other words, the people around say, ah, yes, this is a sage. but still I see that she is suffering. And they say, I wonder if this means she's not really awake. No, it means that she's awake in the suffering. Suffering Buddha is no less a Buddha. You understand what I'm saying? So the medicine for what you're experiencing is kindness, loving yourself, those around you, the world, but especially loving yourself, not seeing yourself as less than because certain thoughts, feelings, emotions, or experiences are rising. Reminding yourself, I am not that. And if this is what I need to endure, what is here in this moment, even if it's difficult, this is what I need to endure in order to realize the self, I am willing. This helps us to diminish the fear that you'll be stuck there forever, and also helps you return to the underlying peace which you are, and not be coming from the assumption that you are not peace, that you need to be fixed, that you need even to heal something. Be willing to live in the experience you're having for the sake of your awakening. So, can you notice in this moment that even with this upwelling of emotion and this feeling that I am not peaceful, can you notice in this moment, Brandy, that you are aware that you are here? Do you know that you are here? This is where peace lies. Even if I am aware of suffering, if I remember before the suffering, I am aware, sooner or later, the suffering will begin to fall because the suffering is occurring in the mind. Awareness is what is prior to mind. So even the recollection in this suffering, I can see that I am aware. And repeating this, doing this, bringing this recognition into mind over and over in this moment provides the opportunity for whatever has arisen in mind, body, or world to pass. Because this awareness itself, is not clinging to whatever is appearing, but rather is saying, thank you. Thank you for showing me how I am distracted away from the recognition that I am being consciousness and this. And how do you know if you're being successful? The way that you know you are being successful is when you feel this suffering and this pain, though it may not go away, it begins to diminish. It begins to lessen. In every moment that you remember, I am that which is aware, there is a recognition that I am not what is passing through. And this is not to deny it or to say it's not important. In the relative sense of this life that you're living, it may well be very important. But in the larger scheme things of consciousness itself, It is simply another phenomenon passing through. And eventually you become very stable in this recognition. And this is when you begin to see that you are the underlying peace. All of you have to remember that awakening does not guarantee that there won't be waves. Awakening only guarantees that you will become a more skillful surfer.
Hi, Rishi. Do you hear me?
Hello. I can't. Who is this?
I'm
See
the.
you. Do you have your camera on?
Ah, yes, I have my cam.
Let me see if I can.
I don't know.
Hello. I
Hello.
can see you.
Thank you for your previous answer. It really helped me a lot. I I had the feeling that it was also my issue in this moment. But now I have another question about dreams. As it's an unconscious, for me, it's an unconscious moment to dream. And is there anything to do with dreams that we experience there? How how should we work with the dreams? This is because in dreams I have a lot
So
of.
I'm going to need to have you say that. I'm going to need to ask you to say that again. For some reason, my sound is breaking up this morning, so I couldn't quite hear you. Can you say that again?
Yes, my question is there anything to do with the dreams, with our dreams, the feelings? Because I understood the point that you said before, how to create feelings, emotions, and look behind that it is peace. But the dreaming state is a little bit different. There is less consciousness, at least for me, in the dreaming state. So is there anything to do with the dreaming state? Because I remember more and more my dreams, but I don't know if I just have to let it go, then anything else, like the feelings in the awakening state, or is there something to work with that in the dream?
Yes, very good. So, I missed a bit of that. So, if I quite answer your question or I'm a little bit off, just remind me what you were trying to say. But it sounds like, if I understood you, that you're asking about the dream state, and I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Anandi, if you are there, if you can send me a message on WhatsApp to clarify a little bit, that would be helpful. What I know about the dream state and its relationship to the waking state is that both originate mind. So they have the same origin. They manifest on the screen of awareness in a similar way. The only real difference between the dream state and the waking state is the dream state tends to be shorter, the waking state is longer. But in terms of how we work with those, from the perspective of the inquiry and our spiritual practice, is that we don't become lost in either one.
My
Often said that the dream state in some way.
My question was, in the awakening state, I feel that I'm more conscious already, but in the dreaming state, I don't have this kind of consciousness. You don't hear me.
Yeah. So the message I'm getting is that in the dream state, there seems to be less consciousness. So how do I work with that? Is that your question?
Yes.
Let me ask you another question. What is the necessity for you to understand the dream state?
Just to become conscious also in the dreaming state. As the awakening state, I am already more, I can pay more attention to that I am the peace, and I can recognize easier that, okay, the emotion that is passing, it is only an emotion that will pass. It is not the same in the dreaming state. It just happens, but I'm not at all that conscious. I don't have that consciousness, or I don't feel that consciousness as in the, I can already sometimes experience in the awakening state.
Well, in many spiritual traditions, there are techniques, methods for increasing our ability to dream consciously. So those are not things that I'm particularly familiar with. But that is because I come from a tradition that says the dream state is no more important than the waking state in terms of needing to know, wanting to know. It's important to know what is the meaning of what is passing. So in the waking state, we understand that a lot of what we experience throughout any given day in the waking state is just passed by, and so we don't pay much attention to it. Unless something difficult, challenging, emotional, painful, something like this comes up in the waking state, we really don't give much attention to it. Most of the way which we can be aware of the waking state, we usually let it pass by. We don't really engage in it. We don't forget or importance. For me, it never made much sense to want to learn how to give importance to asking in the dream state. Both states of dream and waking, objects, experiences, sensations, feelings passing by. Our practice invited onto is not to anything was passing by, but rather to ask, was aware of this? What notices what is passing by? So, if you want to become more able to ask that question in the dream state, then there are techniques that are available for that. My experience, for me, has been that that's a long way around. Now I have to learn some other techniques. I have to do something else. I have to become something else. I have to acquire more knowledge in order to get there in the dream state and say, oh yeah, this is also just passing by. So this does not seem so interesting to me. But if it's interesting to you, then yes, you can go to the Tibetan, you can go to other Native American teachings that will talk about how to increase your ability to remain in a state of conscious dreaming. So this is definitely something you can do. And if you feel to do that, you can pursue that. But I'm sorry to say I can't really guide you in that, because my experience, my teaching is really, why bother? It's enough to know I am awake, I am aware. And I will come out of the dream and I will know, oh, that was a dream. And so at that moment, I will lose interest in it. And even if I don't lose interest in it, as you know, from any dream you've had, you cannot carry it into the waking state, right? It doesn't last into the waking state. You can keep it in mind, or the emotion related to that dream can be there for a period of time after you enter the waking state. But no matter how hard you try, because it is a much more subtle state or of mind, it just dissipates very quickly. So this says something about its ephemeral or passing nature. It is just passing. So do you take an interest in what is present in the waking state? Do you take an interest in what is present in the dream state? Or do you take an interest in what remains where in both states? This is the question that leads to awakening. Now, if it doesn't satisfy your curiosity about what is happening in the waking state, then you can take up some other method. But I can't teach you that. So.
Thank you.
So I will just say to all of you, really something to remember along the way of practice is there are always going to be many, many things which will arise, and attention will naturally go to them, or curiosity, the natural curiosity of having a mind and body will go in that direction. This is not a problem in terms of making it wrong, but it also has to be eventually, and it is eventually recognized that the outward flowing of attention to mind, whether it's in the waking state or the dream state, the outward flowing of attention into the mind will not take you to the source of mind, because it's in the opposite direction. It's an outward flowing away from the self into the content of mind, whether it's in the waking state or dreaming state. Eventually, you simply lose interest in this. Until then, just realize that you are making the decision to play in the field of mind. And when you lose interest in it sufficiently, then you will come back to the source. This is guaranteed. So if you need to do something, the only thing to do is to lose interest in the outward flowing nature of mind. And we do this, of course, by the question, and who am I? Who is aware that this interest, this curiosity is here, that I'm being sort of pulled along by it and swept away by it? In the meantime, you can look at anything you want. Recognize when you've been pulled away from the self and into the content of whatever is present in the waking state or the dreaming state. And this is much easier to do. The dreaming state is actually an indicator for this, because we can see how easy it is to be swept away in the dream state. And then the instant we awaken, the dream state is gone. And we know instantly, oh, that was a dream. This is not what we do so often or so easily in the waking state, is it? Something rises in the waking state, and we can spend minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and years pursuing that temporary thing which has risen in the mind. If we just had a moment where we said, oh, I am awake now, we would say, oh, that was a dream, and we would forget it. But because it happened in the waking state, we cling to it. We need to understand it. We need to know what the content of it is. What does it mean? What does it say about me? What does it say about the world I'm living in? And so on. So this is not to deny there is a curiosity and there's a pull and there's an interest to flow into something in our experience. And of course, we need to do this sometimes. Sometimes it becomes very obvious that I need to act in this situation. But this does not mean that we need to, because we've made the decision or we've had the experience of needing to act in a particular situation, that does not mean we need to accept the belief that because I acted in this situation, that determines who I am. It says something about me. It may say something about our conditioning. It may say something about the world. It may say something about where we're living, who we're living with, the society we're living in. But this does not say anything about who you are as being, consciousness, and bliss. This is just the activity of mind and experience and world. So understand it from that position. You know, just on a, you know, I said I can't really help you with um, conscious dreaming and things like that. But what I can help you with is to know that any thought that you hold in mind in the waking state will eventually manifest in the dream state. It just will, you know, just like the foundation for your own awakening is the remembrance. I am that which is aware. I am being, consciousness, and bliss. This is not just a nice, comforting saying. This is also directing the mind to look for that as its direct experience. So if you want to know more about what's happening in the dream state, then in the waking state, before you go to sleep at night, just remind yourself, I want to remain conscious in the dream, and then go to sleep, forgetting about it. Because eventually, mind is such a powerful tool that eventually it creates what you ask it to create. So if you say, I want to be more conscious in the dream state, then go to sleep. Don't make it a problem. Eventually, the mind will respond to that cue in the same way that if you say, my highest priority in this life is to awaken to the recognition that I am being, consciousness, and bliss. That which is aware is the nature of being. If you're constantly reminding yourself, remembering this, and affirming that that is your highest priority, mind has no ability to block that. It only has the ability to go along in the pursuit of that goal. And this comes back to Brandy's question about effort. If you find yourself making a huge amount of effort, on one level, effort is good. But at the point that she's talking about effort, she's talking of effort as a difficulty or as a problem. So at this point, it's important to remember that the simple remembrance, my priority is to awaken in this lifetime, to realize myself as being consciousness bliss. This does not take a lot of effort. It just takes repetition. It just takes remembrance. So we can drop away from that intense effort and come into the recognition that my prior state is being consciousness and bliss. Therefore, that's not being questioned. The fact that I'm not recognizing myself as awareness itself in this moment, this is a function of mind. Mind is interested in something else. So sometimes we give in to whatever it's interested in, and sometimes we say, oh no, I see that is not leading me into this state of peaceful recognition that I am being consciousness and bliss. So now I will let go of that and remain as this recognition that I am being consciousness and bliss until it becomes my direct experience. So thank you for joining in today. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mukshiyam Amrita Swaha Bhuva Bhu Om Sat Jung Hum Om. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Sleep well. Enjoy your day.